Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Jess Get Hired podcast, your gateway to a thriving career and a strategic resource if you're a business learning to navigate this ever-evolving world we call hiring. If you're a seasoned professional charting your career path, or maybe you're just a business trying to understand what's trending in the workplace today, you've come to the right place. My name is Jessica Fiesta George, and I'm your host of the Jess Get Hired podcast. My goal is to help you with strategies to help you get ahead of the competition. And I love to help businesses learn how to hire better and smarter than their competition. If you like conversations just like this one, click that subscribe button because I don't want you to miss an episode. Share this out with all of your friends. Connect with me on social media. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. If you like this, add this to your playlist and don't miss an episode. Head over to my website, jessgethired.com. Well, today I have a groundbreaking intersection between PR, marketing, and workforce strategies. And joining me to help in this conversation is the founder and CEO of a company called Resolute PR. Her name is Nicole Morgan, and she owns a full-service public relations and marketing agency that not only delivers marketing strategies, but also helps deliver bold workforce marketing solutions. Nicole and her award-winning all-female team have pioneered a formula that helps apply PR and marketing principles to help solve today's hiring and retention issues. Before we get too serious in this conversation, I'm not sure if you guys have felt the magic from the world's first productivity shot. I've been talking to you about this since the beginning of the new year. This is called Magic Mind, and if you haven't heard about it yet, it's a matcha-based energy shot that's infused with nootropics, adaptogens, that is designed to crush procrastination, brain fog, fatigue, and it contains magical ingredients. There's 12 in here that you have to look it up. They're scientifically designed to improve energy, focus, and mood, and also decreases your stress. All of that combined will help you with your productivity. And if you want to read the science behind this, you can go to magicmind.com/hired. That is a special link just for you if you're listening to this podcast. Now, if you're an employer, this episode was made for you. So let's bring the focus back to this conversation with Nicole and let's help solve your hiring and retention issue.
Hi, everyone. This is Greg Brooks with Rocket Station.
You're listening to the Jess Get Hired podcast.
You're listening to the Jess Get Hired podcast. Make sure that you like the podcast and share it with all your friends. I can't wait to hear what you think.
Nicole, welcome to the Jess Get Hired podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
I'm excited for our conversation. I think this one is going to be one our audience is going to truly enjoy. Can't wait to talk to you about your business as well. So let's just kind of kick things off if you're ready.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So maybe just walk us through your journey from being an intern to landing the CEO seat at the company you're with now, Resolute PR. Tell us more about that and what was your driving force behind your career in PR and marketing?
Sure. Yeah. So I started, internships are a big thing when you're working in PR because I teach an intro class at a local university now. So I'm telling my students all the time, what you learn in the classroom, it's great for textbook foundational knowledge, but it's really not until you get out into the field that you're getting to see what the career is really like. So I was lucky to get an internship for a startup PR firm, ended up staying there for 10 years in my career and really worked my way up. That agency closed. And so I was kind of left with this big question of, okay, do I go get a job somewhere? Do I try to get a job at another agency? Do I go work for a big company? And the least scary thing to me, which seems crazy now, was to start my own agency and just see if I could give it a go on my own. But in reality, my whole career had been running an agency. And so that's all that I knew. And it was kind of a natural continuation of what I was doing. By starting from scratch, I had this opportunity to really envision what an agency could look like today because our career or our industry had changed so much, and really wanted it to be a full stop agency where we were doing design, digital marketing, some non-traditional things outside of just public relations, that we could bring all those things together and come to our clients with a more comprehensive plan.
Okay. And I think some of those non-traditional items are what we're going to talk about today on this podcast. So you've been open for almost 10 years now. So you spent 10 years at the other agency and now you're about to hit your 10-year mark next year. Any standout moments or achievements that you're proud of during your journey?
Well, PR people don't get a ton of business classes when they're starting out. So not really having a sense for, I'm going to run my own agency someday. I didn't have a lot of that foundational knowledge. So I am really proud of myself that I've always been very open to knowing when I don't know something, when I need to bring in the experts and to help kind of get the business to that next level every time we hit that plateau. So, HR is definitely an area that I've learned a lot about. I think just the mechanics of running a business and how you focus on growth and making time for that and getting outside of working in the business and being in a place where I can work on the business has been something that, especially in the last couple of years, I've really been focusing on. But more than that, it's been the team. I get to work with these amazing women every single day who bring all of this knowledge and idea sharing, and we get to work on these really cool campaigns together. And that is what gets me out of bed and going to work every day.
Okay. So how many women are on your team today?
There are 9 of us total.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, leading an all-female team in a male-dominated field is very impressive. I applaud you for doing all of that. Are there any ups and downs that come with building an all-woman organization?
I think we'll get into this a little bit with the research, but I have always really valued, transparency and having flexibility, and having a team of women. Flexibility just really becomes paramount. I mean, we all have so many things that we're trying to juggle between our home lives and, parents and extracurricular activities and all of those different things. And so figuring out how to make all that work within a business that in the field of PR and marketing, you've got to be available 24/7. It's not that typical 8 to 5 job. So how do you balance flexibility in a career that requires you to be on it all the time and always available? And I think we've done that. I think we really bucked a lot of the trends from how agencies are typically run. And so I'm really proud of that. But it takes a special person to know how to balance that, because it comes down to every single person.
Well, so you were talking about your workforce studies and the research. Talk to us a little bit about what these studies included, any surprising or significant findings that you uncovered, and anything that you saw or found out that you were like, wow, we didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I didn't see coming was, as a PR and marketing agency, working on workforce, because, it's typically been something that's really been handled by an HR department and hiring managers. And in the last few years, we've had this recurring theme coming up from our clients, all different industries. They were all struggling with the same thing. I have these job descriptions that are out there and nobody's applying. And where are all the people? So we developed a service area around it. We started working on it's essentially an awareness campaign for these specific positions that are open. We do a lot of work in manufacturing and these hourly type positions where there's typically a lot of turnover. It's very competitive because everybody's trying to fill the same positions. And so we were very successful with that. But what I really wanted to understand was why there are still people out there who are not looking for a job or are very content in the job that they're in. And so why is that? What is it that people really value in a job and would make them stay, or that would cause them to apply for a job? So that's kind of what led us to doing our own research that we own. And it's been really enlightening. And I think it's helped us be even smarter about putting those campaigns together.
Okay. Well, any practical insights from that research that employers can put into action on how they can retain some of the top talent, especially in this competitive market?
Employers are really having to rethink how they do business. And I think we all had to do that post-COVID, especially if you were in an industry where you got to work from home. And do you bring people back, or do you have a hybrid environment? People really got used to having that flexibility. And in a lot of businesses, they were really able to prove that that is possible. You can have both, and you can have productivity from your employees while still having trust that they're going to get the work done and be able to take care of the things that they need to take care of. So that blend of personal life and work life has really come together. And I would say that there are a lot of things that employers can be doing that are low to no cost options to show employees that you trust them and that you care about them and that you understand that they have a personal life. One of the things that was really interesting out of the research was that the number two top, pay is going to probably always be the number one thing. Everybody needs money. They want to know that they're going to have a job that is going to pay the bills and then some. So that obviously is going to be the top thing that motivates someone to apply for a job. But the number two thing was that people wanted one no questions asked day off per month. And that puzzled us a little bit because we're like, well, I'm sure all of these companies have a PTO policy, right? But what we, kind of based on some of these other questions, what we realized people were really asking for is that there is this attitude of, I can't take time off because I'm going to put, this person in a bind, or they say I can have the time off, but it's really just if I'm sick. Or how many people do we know that are sick that go to work anyway, and then they feel like crap when they're there? And what they're saying is, I want to be able to take the day off and I don't want to feel like bad for taking it. And that's just a shift in mindset and a shift in culture that companies have to start getting used to. So there was that. There was a lot around women in particular, and just the balance that they're having with, taking care of children, or also taking care of elderly parents, and the amount of time that takes. And so having the flexibility to be able to go, drop someone off or take someone to a doctor's appointment and make up that time maybe outside of traditional work hours was also something that stood out to me.
I feel guilty whenever I try to take time off, and I try not to have my team feel guilty whenever they're on PTO. I have made it a rule around here that if you're on PTO, do not email, do not call, do not answer a text message. It can wait. There's nothing that we're doing that can't wait until you get back. And every time they try to answer an email or something, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Don't do that. You're right. That mindset that everyone has about taking time off, it's interesting that people care so much about the people that they work with, that they even think about that. But we have created a culture where it's like, we can't afford to take time off because then I'll just have more work piled up for me whenever I get back. So I'm glad that your studies have shown that is one of the things that speaks to employees today.
Yeah. Something else that stood out was that people really were more likely to apply for jobs that had very clear expectations and mechanisms for reviews. And that was something that I saw within my own team too. I always thought nobody likes having a review. Who wants to be reviewed and hear that there's something that they need to work on, and just let me do my job. If I don't hear from you, it means I'm doing a good job. I just assumed that's how everybody thought. But the reality is that people want that opportunity for feedback because they see it as being linked to opportunities for promotion and bonuses and some of those advancement opportunities. And when they're getting those, they're actually more likely to stay. So that becomes a huge retention tool for companies. Whereas when they don't have that, and then they're going, well, why did this person get promoted, but I didn't? Those are the things that start to make them feel unhappy and impact culture and are going to cause them to look elsewhere.
Okay, good point there. Now, you talked earlier about how HR teams don't really partner with PR. I've never had it even in my career where we were like, we should partner with the marketing team on something like that. So how do you view the connection between PR and marketing and HR when it comes to shaping the workforce culture, branding, and maybe the recruitment funnel?
Right. Well, I mean, it's different. And it's just, again, it speaks to the shift in how people are searching for jobs. More traditional hiring practices are really focused on inbound leads. You're assuming that people are actively looking for a job, or they're finding you on Indeed, and all of the, Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster, ZipRecruiting, all of those are places you should absolutely be posting jobs. But when you're in an environment like we're in right now, where it is so competitive to find those employees, the reality is you have to convince some people that they should be applying for a job. And maybe they're in a position already, they're already employed, or there were also a lot of people in our study that we found have a good chunk of savings built up and they're just not in a hurry to look for a job. So you have to convince them hey, this is a good opportunity and this is something that I want to be applying for. So that's really where marketing comes in, because those are awareness campaigns. Those are campaigns where you're convincing an audience that this is a good move and a solid move for them. Something else that we saw was that people are they really want stability and they want transparency and they want trust. And so making sure that those things are coming through interviews, or your social media channels, even the pictures that are being posted and the employee reviews that are out there. So just like I said, I don't have an HR background. People typically don't have a marketing background or a PR background. So when you're doing something like that, you really have to bring both of those different elements to the table to be successful.
Are there any projects that you can think of, or things that even your firm has worked on where the combination of PR and marketing had a significant impact on a company's culture, branding, or even recruitment marketing?
Yeah. I mean, one that I love to talk about. So I'm in Tulsa, and we actually have the most inland waterway in the country here at the Port of Catoosa. And so it's a huge industrial complex. There are about 80 different companies that are located out there, all manufacturing jobs. And that's an industry that was already struggling to recruit people pre-COVID. But then on top of that, you have a lot of people who would love to work in a remote environment or not be outside in the elements. So they have a lot that they're having to overcome. I think the average age of a welder now is like 43. So there are not a lot of people that are going into that industry. And, we're so dependent on that as a country to produce even things like fridges and, those everyday appliances that you use. So, part of what happened there was that there was a whole generation of people whose parents worked in manufacturing who said, don't go into this. It's hot, it's unpredictable, go to college, get a degree, find an office job. And so we have this huge gap of people who never went into manufacturing. So we put together a campaign where we actually showed people what a career looks like in manufacturing today. A big area of focus has been bringing women into manufacturing and bringing in more diversity. And so showcasing people who are currently working at the port, who love their job. These facilities are beautiful, and there's fire and it's exciting. It's beautiful video footage. And so we were able to do a campaign on some traditional TV, but then also through digital that was targeted to people who had a high likelihood of moving into manufacturing and showcasing what a career could look like. And so they saw a huge influx in applications. Really, they didn't have to know exactly what they were applying for. Some of those are apprenticeships. And so if you have any interest, you can apply for those jobs and someone will match you up with a company that makes sense.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, sounds like you've given a really good reason why companies should consider partnering with, a marketing firm or even Resolute. But what's the value that you think a marketing team can provide that's hard to replicate if you were doing this in-house?
Yeah. I have to prove the results of what I do all day long to my clients. Otherwise, they don't continue to hire me.
Right.
So I think tracking and measurement are something that we put a lot of value and time into, because we want to make sure that also that the dollars we're spending for our clients are really going to be paying off for them. And a lot of agencies have that same mindset. So, the great thing with a lot of the marketing tools that are out there now is that they're all trackable. I mean, when we're running a campaign and we're showing ads on TikTok, for example, which is another platform that people typically don't think about, you can actually see how many people interacted with those ads and came to your page and hit the submit button for applications on your website. But those are the kinds of things that when you bring in an agency or an outside partner, they're staying on top of all those trends. They know what the new platforms are and what the ways are to prove the ROI on the investment. And, when you're just kind of running a campaign on your own and trying to guess, it's hard to keep up with that because it's constantly changing.
Okay. Good point. Well, what advice would you have for C-level executives or HR leaders who do want to bridge that gap between recruiting and marketing, and how is the best way to go about that?
Well, first, I think that it helps when it comes from that level, because and part of how we got into this is that the reality is that if you are struggling to find people, then you're going to be struggling to produce the product or whatever it is that you're trying to do to make your sales goals. So promoting doesn't really, it's only going to get you so far if you don't have the workforce to actually pull off what it is that you're promising your customers you're going to be doing. That's a lot of times where it gets elevated up to the C-suite level. I think at that point, though, you have to recognize for HR departments and HR hiring managers, this has been their whole world. They've led this and owned this space for so long. And so, really making sure that they know, hey, we're not taking this away from you. This is adding to what you're doing and really giving you the support you need so that you can make wise hiring decisions. Because if you're just scraping the barrel on applications or the ones that you're getting are not actually qualified for the position, well, now you're not making wise hiring decisions. So that would be part number one. I think part number two is on the marketing side, if you're working with your internal team, to coach them to maybe be sensitive to where HR is coming from as well. Because a lot of times when I talk to teams, the HR department goes, this is amazing. I wish our marketing team did this. And then when I talk to the marketing team, they go, oh, this is exactly what we've been telling HR and they're not doing anything. And so there's like this internal conflict that happens. So a lot of times when it comes from the top and they can kind of help bridge some of those and knowing where each side is coming from, that goes a long way in making sure it's a successful campaign.
Yes, I resonate with that because I've gone to some of our internal marketing teams and the C level wants them to focus only on like, let's go get business. But then we're like, but our business is people, like as an HR team, my business is how I get people to come work here. And they don't sometimes see that as equal because people cost the organization money. They're not bringing the money in. But then when you can flip the script a little bit and let them understand that, well, if I get you the talent you need, then we don't have gaps on the team that we were able to bring all of that in. We don't have to outsource, the time it takes to fill a position. That's really money saving for the company. So I think it takes a lot of time. I know I've been struggling just having those conversations, but hearing it from you, it's like, it's a no-brainer for people to figure this out. Any other things from your study that you wanted to share or any key takeaways you want our listeners to remember from this conversation?
Well, this isn't really from the study, but just in general, I think if it's any consolation to different departments, this digital side of things and being able to really target your message is, it's really, this did not exist when I first started in this industry. The pace at which these different tools have come out and the way that they've evolved, it's been so rapid that nobody should feel like, well, I just don't know anything and I'm too far behind, because this is why I have someone on my team that is 100% what she focuses on, because I feel like every week Google is dropping something new. And by the way, you can't do this anymore, but now we're rolling out this new platform or whatever that might be. So, there are just so many tools that are out there. And I think you just have to think creatively. And I think we also have to recognize that the economy will change and there will come a time where it's going to be really easy to find people and talent will be readily available again. But then you have the flip side of the equation where you're having to think about retention and how do I keep the people that are really strong? How do I keep them happy? I've heard some talk about, well, the young people, they just don't want to stay anywhere and they just want to bounce around. What we're finding is that's not true. Really, if people feel like they're being invested in and they have strong communication and they have transparency, one of the things that we found was that people really value a culture of trust and purpose and knowing what's going on. That's a shift for companies, because for a long time it was like, don't tell them anything. Everything's great. And, the less you say, the better, because employees don't need to know that. And that's just not the culture that people desire anymore. So anyway, I would just say, investing in employees and making sure that you're not forgetting about retention, because it's so expensive to replace people. You can't put all your eggs in either basket.
Well, what's new for you, Nicole? Like anything on the horizon, any exciting projects or plans that you want to share with the audience?
Well, I would love to know. So we have a page where people can sign up for our workforce study, and we are sending out that data as we get it. We will be doing another workforce study. And so I would love to know from people what they're kind of struggling with or other questions that they have about the workforce. We're trying to figure out, do we maybe focus more on retention, knowing that that's what probably will be coming down the pike, especially if there's a recession and layoffs start to occur. But I would just love to know from different industries what they want to know about. It's been an interesting process. We've never done this level of research before, and it has just impacted our work so much. And it's awesome to be able to come on platforms like this to be able to share that data so that other people can have access to it too.
Well, I'd be interested once you get that study done. Maybe we do a follow-up sometime next year or whenever that releases, and then we can have a follow-up. It would be awesome to hear what you find.
Yeah, I would love that.
All right. Well, I'm going to make sure we share the links to find your firm. I appreciate you being a part of the Jess Get Hired podcast, and thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you for having me on.